There are symbols that everyone associates with Freemasonry: the square and compass, the all-seeing eye, the blazing star. But beneath the surface, hidden in every ceremony and every photograph, is a quieter symbol, often ignored by the world, but never forgotten by those who wear it: the white gloves. At first glance, they seem ordinary, just two simple pieces of white fabric, slipped onto the hands before a Masonic meeting. But in truth, the white gloves have witnessed more secrets, protected more reputations, and carried more power than almost any other object in the secret history of the lodge. Why do Freemasons wear white gloves? What is the meaning behind this tradition? And what role have these gloves played in the lives of the famous men and women who have worn them? If you think you know everything about Freemasonry, think again. The story of the white gloves is one of purity and temptation, power and humility, triumph and shame. And at its heart is a lesson for every seeker, that the hand which builds must also be clean, that the work of the Spirit leaves marks the world may never see. If you love stories about hidden meanings, real mysteries, and spiritual lessons, subscribe to Secret Sign Society and join us on this journey. The birth of a tradition. Long before they became a Masonic symbol, white gloves carried deep meaning in the courts of Europe. In the Middle Ages, a knight would receive white gloves as a sign of trust and honor before being sent on a quest. Judges, priests, even kings wore them during important ceremonies, always as a symbol that their hands were clean, their intentions pure. When the earliest Masonic lodges were formed, the tradition was adopted and transformed. At every initiation, every gathering, and every public procession, white gloves became a required part of the ritual dress. But why? According to the oldest rituals, the white gloves are a gift, offered by the lodge to each new member. They are not for vanity, nor for hiding the hand, but as a constant reminder: let your hands be clean, let your actions be pure, let your work be worthy, not only before men, but before the great architect of the universe. The spiritual meaning: clean hands, clean heart. To wear the white gloves is to accept a challenge. In Freemasonry, the hands are not just tools. They are a symbol of everything we do in the world. The deals we make, the promises we keep, the help we offer, the secrets we hold, the harm we cause or prevent. The gloves remind every Mason that while the eyes of others may be fooled, the truth of our deeds is never hidden. May I never soil these gloves with dishonor, says the initiate. May my hands remain as pure as my heart as I build, serve, and seek the light. But the story doesn't end there. Famous hands, the gloves in celebrity life. Throughout history, many of the world's most famous Freemasons have worn the white gloves, not only in the lodge, but at public events, ceremonies, and even funerals. George Washington, the first president of the United States and a lifelong Mason, was famously buried wearing a pair of white gloves, placed on his hands by his Masonic brothers as a final act of honor. Duke Ellington, jazz legend and proud Prince Hall Mason, wore his white gloves during musical performances and in lodge rituals, saying they helped him keep the music honest and the work noble. Sir Winston Churchill, British Prime Minister and wartime leader, was initiated into Freemasonry as a young man. Photos exist of Churchill at ceremonies, his hands gloved in white, a sign that even in the darkest times, he aspired to act with integrity. And in the world of cinema, stars like John Wayne and Nat King Cole were often seen in Masonic regalia, white gloves visible in the grainy photographs, a quiet badge of their personal code. Secrets and scandals, when the gloves came off. But as with every symbol, the white gloves also witnessed moments of controversy. In the 19th and 20th centuries, as anti-Masonic sentiment rose in parts of the world, newspapers published illustrations of gloved hands hiding money, covering eyes, or reaching into the affairs of state. Scandals erupted when prominent Masons were accused of corruption or hypocrisy. The image of the white glove, once a sign of purity, became for some a mask for secret deals. Inside the lodges, these accusations were taken seriously. Rituals reminded members that the gloves were not a guarantee of innocence, but a daily challenge. To keep your hands clean meant constant vigilance, repentance, and humility. Many lodges instituted ceremonies of public apology, where a member who had failed to live up to the standard would remove his gloves and ask for forgiveness. A glove for every hand, unity in diversity. Perhaps the most beautiful secret of the white gloves is that they fit every hand. From kings to commoners, actors to athletes, every Mason receives the same symbol, regardless of race, class, or creed. The gloves erase difference, reminding all who enter the lodge that here no man is greater than another. Here every hand is called to do good. This lesson touched the lives of many, including Prince Hall, the founder of Black Freemasonry in America. Hall insisted that the white gloves be part of every ceremony, a sign that even in a divided nation, spiritual purity and brotherhood could transcend prejudice. The invisible work. The gloves in everyday life. Beyond the famous faces and public ceremonies, the white gloves have a quieter, more personal meaning. They invite every Mason, and in truth, every person, to ask, are my hands clean? Do my actions honor my highest values? What invisible work am I doing in the world? In countless homes, hospitals, charities, and moments of kindness, hands wearing invisible gloves have built schools, fed the hungry, cared for the sick, and comforted the dying. The white gloves are a reminder. The purest work is often unseen. Reflection. The gloves and you. As we reach the end of this story, ask yourself, if you had to wear white gloves today, would you feel proud or ashamed of what your hands have done? How might the world change if more people, famous or unknown, lived as if every deed would leave a mark on a spotless cloth? If this story inspired you, subscribe to Secret Sign Society. Share your thoughts in the comments. What does purity mean to you? Where do you see invisible gloves at work in your own life? Remember, the greatest secrets are those we carry in our hands every day. White gloves have been present at some of history's most tense and transformative moments. During World War II, as bombs fell on London, Masonic lodges sometimes met in secret, continuing their rituals by candlelight even in the darkest hours. Members, ranging from shopkeepers to generals, would don their white gloves not just as a ritual, but as a silent promise that integrity and hope must survive, even when the world falls apart. Sir Winston Churchill himself, known for his strength and resolve, was seen after major war meetings quietly slipping on his white gloves before certain private gatherings. For him, these gloves were a moment of stillness, a pause to remember that victory should never be bought at the price of one's soul. The gloved hand in justice and mercy white gloves are also present in the pursuit of justice. Across Europe, judges for centuries wore white gloves in court as a symbol that the law should be dispensed with clean hands, free from bias, bribery, or cruelty. Several famous Masons who became judges, like Thurgood Marshall in the United States and Lord Denning in England, kept a pair of white gloves in their chambers, a quiet reminder to dispense justice with fairness and humility. Legends and lost stories. Some of the most fascinating stories about the white gloves have never been told in history books. In the 1920s, during the golden age of jazz, a rumor spread through Harlem that if you needed help, a job, protection, or a loan, you should look for a man wearing white gloves at a local club. Musicians like Duke Ellington and Cab Calloway were said to quietly support struggling artists, their charitable work hidden from the world, but known to those who looked for the gloves. In the art world, several renowned painters, including Mason and Surrealist master Salvador Dalí, incorporated the image of a white-gloved hand into their works. Dalí once wrote in his diary, "The gloved hand is the servant of invisible powers. The hand that paints must be as pure as the idea." He even gifted a pair of embroidered white gloves to fellow Mason Walt Disney, with a note, "For the hand that brings dreams to life." A mask and a mirror. White gloves are not always a sign of innocence. In detective novels and classic cinema, the image of a white glove sometimes signals deception, a criminal hiding their fingerprints, a conspirator masking their guilt. Famous magician and Mason Harry Houdini played with this duality, wearing white gloves during his performances. He loved the irony. White gloves can hide a trick, but they can't hide the truth from your own heart. The white glove, then, becomes both a mask and a mirror. A mask, if used to conceal or pretend. A mirror, if it forces us to reflect on who we really are. Unity beyond borders. One of the most powerful aspects of the white gloves tradition is how it transcends nationality, language, and even religion. Whether at a lodge in Tokyo, Paris, Lagos, or São Paulo, the ritual of donning white gloves is almost identical, a shared language among those who may never speak a word in common. In some parts of the world, when members could not afford proper gloves, they would wrap their hands in clean white cloth, symbolizing that purity of heart was more important than perfection of form. In rural America, Freemasons were known for leaving an extra pair of white gloves on the altar, a silent invitation for any brother in need to take them. No questions asked. Famous farewells. Gloves at the end. For many Masons, the white gloves are not just a beginning, but also a farewell. It is tradition in countless lodges around the world that when a Mason passes away, his white gloves are placed in his casket, on his hands, or beside his heart. This final gesture is deeply moving, a symbol that, no matter what happened in life, he leaves this world as he entered the lodge, seeking light, aspiring to purity, striving to do good. At George Washington's funeral, the sight of the white gloves moved even political rivals to tears. In modern times, the funerals of famous Masons, like Nat King Cole, Louis Armstrong, and John Wayne, were attended by men and women wearing white gloves, a final sign of unity, respect, and hope. The gloves and the modern world. You might wonder, in an age of digital lives and virtual meetings, do the white gloves still matter? For many, they matter more than ever. In a world where our hands reach further, through emails, social media, global deals, the question of what we touch, build, or destroy has only grown. Many modern Masons report that the act of putting on white gloves, even alone at home for an online gathering, centers them. It is a ritual that cuts through distraction and noise, reconnecting them with a sense of purpose. Even outside of Masonry, the symbolism has spread. Healthcare workers, volunteers, artists, and everyday heroes often wear gloves as part of their work, not just for hygiene, but as a quiet badge of service, of caring, of doing no harm. The invisible gloves. A spiritual reflection. Perhaps the greatest secret of the white gloves is that you don't need to own a pair to feel their power. Whenever you reach out to help a stranger, you are wearing invisible gloves. Whenever you refuse to take part in gossip, dishonesty, or cruelty, you are keeping your hands clean. Whenever you admit a mistake and try again, you are honoring the spirit of the gloves. The world is hungry for purity, not perfection, but the courage to act with kindness, truth, and humility. The white gloves remind us that every day is a chance to begin again, to put on a new intention, and to let our hands be a force for good. Final call to reflection. So as this story draws to a close, ask yourself, what marks have your hands left in the world? If your life was measured not by what you owned, but by what you built, served, and healed, would you be proud? Maybe the white gloves are not really about the fabric at all. Maybe in the end, they are an invitation, a daily spiritual challenge, whispered to you each morning. Let your hands be clean. Let your heart be pure. Let your work be worthy, not only before men, but before the great architect of the universe. If you found meaning in this story, subscribe to Secret Signs Society. Share your thoughts below. Where do you see invisible gloves in the world? What does purity mean to you in your own journey? The greatest mysteries are not hidden in secret rooms. They are woven into the rituals of everyday life, and sometimes the simplest symbols hold the most powerful truths. While much of Masonic history is rooted in Europe and America, the tradition of white gloves has quietly traveled across continents, taking on new shades of meaning in each culture it touches. In Japan, the act of putting on white gloves has deep spiritual resonance, symbolizing respect, humility, and the purification of intentions before entering sacred spaces. Japanese Masons blend this cultural reverence with the Masonic ritual, seeing the gloves not only as part of tradition, but as a bridge to their own heritage. In Brazil, Masonic lodges often include white gloves in public parades, charitable work, and ceremonies that blend the ancient with the modern. Here, the gloves are a symbol of unity across race and class, reminding members and the public alike that service transcends social divisions. Across Africa, especially in Nigeria and Ghana, Masonic lodges are among the most respected fraternal organizations. Members cherish their white gloves as emblems of honesty and as reminders of shared responsibility within the community. In times of crisis, epidemics, conflict, or natural disaster, Masons have been seen distributing aid with gloved hands, ensuring dignity and respect for those they help. In India, where ritual purity is woven into daily life, the white gloves serve as a powerful symbol for Masons seeking to harmonize their spiritual and civic duties. Stories circulate of philanthropists and business leaders quietly funding schools, clinics, and orphanages, always insisting their charitable work be done with clean hands. The gloves in art and public life. It's not only in private that the white gloves leave their mark. Throughout the 20th century, artists and photographers used the symbol to provoke reflection. In one famous exhibit at the Louvre, dozens of white gloves hung from invisible wires, each representing a silent act of kindness. Visitors were invited to write anonymous notes describing moments when they'd seen invisible gloves in action, creating a mosaic of goodness that moved thousands to tears. In literature, white gloves appear in works as varied as Russian novels and Brazilian poetry. Sometimes the glove is a metaphor for lost innocence. Sometimes it is the sign of hope that redemption is possible, even after the gravest of mistakes. Modern filmmakers, inspired by the secrecy and duality of the glove, have used it in crime dramas and thrillers, sometimes as a clue, sometimes as a red herring, always as a symbol that challenges viewers to question what is real and what is merely appearance. The challenge of the digital age. In today's world, where reputations are made and broken with a single post, the meaning of clean hands has never been more urgent. Some young Masons use the white gloves as a filter for their online actions. Before posting, commenting, or sharing, they ask, "Would I be proud to do this with white gloves on?" Cyberbullying, misinformation, and digital deceit have made the ancient call to purity more relevant than ever. To keep one's hands clean in the virtual world is a challenge for every generation, and the white gloves remain a powerful, silent reminder. White gloves in secret and in service. There are still mysteries to be told. Rumors persist of world leaders who wore white gloves at pivotal moments. Peace talks, private meetings, reconciliations after bitter conflict. Anecdotes circulate among journalists and diplomats about the subtle exchange of a single white glove, passed as a signal that this conversation will remain honorable. In hospitals, nurses and doctors who are also Masons have, at times, quietly gifted a pair of white gloves to grieving families after a loss, a silent sign of shared sorrow and respect. In prisons, outreach programs run by Masons have distributed white gloves to new graduates of education and rehabilitation programs, a tangible promise that their hands, once instruments of harm or regret, can now become tools for healing and hope. The eternal return. Gloves at the threshold. As this story draws to a close, remember, the white gloves are more than a relic. They are a living challenge, a daily call to serve with integrity, to act with compassion, and to build a legacy of light. Every act of kindness, every moment of restraint, every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you put on invisible gloves. And though the world may never see them, the mark they leave is real. So, the next time you see someone acting with quiet dignity, helping without expecting credit, or standing up for truth, imagine the white gloves on their hands. And when you face a decision, large or small, ask yourself, what mark will I leave? Will my hands, my work, honor the highest within me? Final invitation. The Secret Signs Society. If this story opened your eyes to the deeper meaning of the white gloves, don't let the lesson end here. Subscribe to Secret Signs Society for more hidden truths, real stories, and spiritual challenges from the world of symbols. Leave your reflections in the comments. Where do you see the spirit of the white gloves today? How do you strive for purity in your own life? What legacy do you hope your hands will build? Remember, every day is a new initiation. Every action is a ritual. The gloves are waiting. Will you put them on? The most powerful symbols aren't the ones we see. They are the ones we live. Let your hands build a story worth telling.